Hey, this is Nick here. It's December 26, 2021. Um, I just want to clear something up. Is I am not the higher intelligence of a divine nature. That's what I think might have, like, that might be whatever it is I think is supernatural. That's how I can describe it from an atheistic point of view. And divine, meaning hidden, and nature being natural. So it's like, that's what that means. And whatever it is, it's a higher intelligence, than anything that I could claim. Definitely more intelligent than me. And let me give you a little bit of background on me, so to say, I guess, since I'm the one who is coming forth with this message. Is I guess I always fashioned myself to be religious, and when I was younger, I'm confused now as to what it was, but I got into reading the Bible, the picture Bible and stuff when I was little, and going to church. Seemed like there was periods of time when we would go a lot, and then we wouldn't go much, and then I got back into it on my own for a while when I was like 11 or 12 or 13, but I guess, looking back, I thought I believed, I really believed, I thought I believed, and, but it didn't reflect in my morals, so, yeah. But, there were times when I claimed to be a Christian that it would dawn on me, okay, maybe I really don't know there's a God, and this is all just in my head, and I'm making it real because I want it to be true. And then I'd be like, well, wait, everybody else believes it, though, so, it's got to be true. And I just wouldn't allow myself to think, it was scared, it was scary to think, okay, there are whole other countries and continents of people that believe differently. So me believing I'm right means I believe they're wrong. And it was just, that was I recognize it now as cognitive dissonance, so it prevented me from expanding my horizons because it was just an uncomfortable thing to think about, that I might be wrong, and, who knows then? Geez, what if I'm wrong, then what, it's just, I don't know, it was stuck there. So, but then I was trying to make sense of the Bible one time when I was trying to read it when I was 25, and it just didn't make sense, but I just try not to think too hard about the weird stuff in the Bible when you want to believe that on the surface that it's all this a really beautiful thing, because it's so the surface, of the when the messages that come forth in the Bible, if you're just reading it without being guided by wisdom, you don't grasp the messages no matter how hard, no matter how many times you read it. It's just gonna, you're not gonna grasp the message if you're not motivated by wisdom. So that's what I found over time. But so, I think it was Noah's Ark was the straw that broke the critical thinking camel's back, I guess. So I was okay, now that didn't, that's not real, that's symbolic, didn't happen. And it was hard for me to admit it to myself. For some reason at 25, it was because I couldn't picture it in any other form than a cartoon. So I was able to be okay, that's obviously symbolic of some other, it just didn't really happen. I didn't need to have a PhD in geology, and zoology, and I didn't know anything about evolution at the time. I didn't know anything about biology. I didn't really know much at the time, but I wasn't very educated. I had it. I guess it was my common sense or something, because that was back when I still had it. I lost it for a while. Hopefully, I don't know if it's back or not. That's a judgment call, I guess, for other people to make. But I said, okay, Noah's Ark, not real. Moving on. That's just, and then it was well, what about this Adam and Eve thing? And someone else brought it up. I were yeah, Adam and Eve is just a metaphor. It's symbolic, and it didn't happen. And I was come on, no. And it's oh, this guy is right, dude. That's the symbolic too. Look at it. Come on. It didn't happen. it was hard because, like, it was like when you talk to people that believed, like other Christians and stuff, they'd be like, "Whoa, what do you think? We came from monkeys?" I'm like, "Well, no, I guess we didn't come from monkeys, so I guess this Adam and Eve story must be true." I don't know. It was hard to get out of it, like get out of that box. I thought it was a box, I guess, like I don't know, I don't know why it had to be more magical for me to believe that it really happened and not look for the inner meanings in the story of Adam and Eve, and study that and what makes that so interesting instead of trying to make believe it's real. It's like that, it's difficult, it's an uncomfortable feeling. So yeah, so it's like, okay, fine. Now Adam and Eve didn't happen, and then it was just a matter of time before I got to Jesus, and then it was like, oh God, Jesus, this had to be real. Otherwise, if this isn't real, but then Adam and Eve wasn't real, so if that wasn't real, then the whole Jesus thing didn't even really have to happen technically, because it was like the sin of Adam. So if Adam wasn't real, then the Jesus didn't have to die. We aren't born with inherent sin that we're born needing salvation right off the rip. Like, maybe that's not true, and it was like a domino effect, kind of, where, okay, well, if this isn't true, it's just like everything just comes down, and then, okay, Jesus didn't happen either, F it. And then, I guess, using the logic I had available to me at the time, it was like, well, then God isn't real, and boom, I'm an atheist. And it was hard. I mean, it wasn't quite like that, because there's the belief, the fear of hell, the just everything like this. The world had to come from something had to create it. We might as well just believe in God just in case. I mean, I was still using logic like that, kind of, but it didn't feel right to use logic like that, and I just didn't feel right. I couldn't make myself believe. No matter how hard I tried, no matter how scared of burning in hell and for all eternity I was, I had to turn, I had to give my will and life over to my reason, for a while, I guess. But it wasn't really like that. But I mean, it was a necessary step, I guess, that I had to take to get out of that. And it was a good thing I did it, because I started studying physics and science, and I was saved. Like, I used to think about, man, I was really saved there, because creation science loomed, and intelligent design was around, and I remember seeing those pamphlets at church and stuff and being like, oh, okay, man, this evolution stuff sounds like a bunch of garbage. Man, wow, there's a big controversy in evolution. I wonder what that is. Obviously, we didn't come from monkeys, and these guys must be from Satan. But I didn't get into it. You know what I mean? But I could have, and I didn't know what real science looked like. So I wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. If I would have been like, wow, this creation science is the bee's knees. This is the real deal, Holyfield. If I saw it without seeing real science first. So because I knew what real science looked like, I didn't really look at creation science till 2014 or 15 or so. I was 10 years later or something, I think I ran into that stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, this isn't science. I could detect all the ways they were being deceptive, but to somebody who had never seen science before, they would have been eating it up, because there was also confirmation bias there, where people are seeing what they think is evidence of something they want to believe. So they just go in on it, and they just don't let other perspectives cloud that belief, because they want that to be true, so they don't study other stuff. Because they just once you found the truth, why study anything else, right? Since you already know the truth, it's like, hey, if it's not what I already believe, it's not true. And that's the logic a lot of people use. They don't even. It's like we're hardwired to do it. So I'm not trying to judge people and be like, hey, you guys aren't open-minded enough. It's just how it is. It's not a bad thing, because it's a thing that we can't escape. But once we're aware of it, we can not let it be an obstacle to us achieving understanding and wisdom. It's cognitive dissonance. So anyways, and yeah, the confirmation bias. The two are like a double-headed snake. And then there's Dunning-Kruger. So that's where people it's like the difference between simple ignorance and complex ignorance. Simple ignorance can be good, because if you realize you're not aware of things, you can search for the things, understand, the things you don't understand, and become aware of things you weren't aware of, and learn about things and know about things. And, simple ignorance can be a beautiful thing. And then complex ignorance is when you're not aware that you're ignorant, and it results in people thinking they're smarter than they really are, and it's another impediment to learning. And then these people develop difficult personalities, but it's something that is inherent to all of us. So nobody really is in a position to look down on anyone else for having cognitive dissonance and using confirmation bias, and suffering from Dunning-Kruger. It's like we can all, because of the cognitive dissonance results in the backfire effect. So if you try too hard to help somebody overcome these obstacles to learning and understanding, then the backfire effect is going to make them just more resistant to what you have to say, basically, and you're not going to get your accomplished goal. Because you're dealing with these difficult personality traits that are inherent to all human psyche. So, but anyway, so back to me, I guess. Started studying real science, got into that, didn't have to change much of my, how I live my life, because I wasn't a moral reprobate. I was just, just normal stuff. I was just a normal person, so I didn't have to change anything. But I didn't have to, I guess it was kind of freeing. I hate to admit it, the Christians were kind of right in a sense that I didn't feel like I had to account for my sins, quote unquote, moral transgressions anymore. And they could use that and be see, you just didn't want to believe in God because you wanted to sin. It's no, trust me, I would have liked for the God thing to be true. Believe it or not, sinning wasn't that great. Because I wasn't so decadent, I guess, that it, you know what I mean? But anyway, I just went to being an atheist, started studying science, and I thought that was to me, that was the beauty part of being an atheist, I guess, was to understand more about just what the things we can actually describe, based on scientific observation, and experimentation, just things we really, feel make us closer to the truth. Science never can find the absolute truth. Everything's always subject to change upon further investigation, and that's another beauty part I like about science. And I always associated being an atheist with scientific understanding or scientific literacy, but it took me a while to figure out that's not necessarily the case, with everyone. And I started, when I went on Facebook, and I was, a very arrogant, just bad debater, just abrasive, and I have other theories for why that was, but even I don't know, some people like me, but they like to watch a confrontation, basically, and I would never come across that way on purpose again. I would never present myself. I catch myself falling back into that mode of communication. Is definitely there's no going back to that. Once I've come too far to go back to that. That's part of why I'm doing this show. So, but anyways, and then you guys know about my whatever supernaturally themed experience earlier this year already, but I just kept debating, and I always tried to put critical thinking and scientific literacy and intellectual honesty. I tripped up upon that term, and realized that's important, to be intellectually honest, be honest about what you know, be able to differentiate what you know from what you think you know, stuff like that. Be careful, and be just, if you don't know something, admit it to yourself and other people, and don't try to twist logic to just justify what you want to believe, to be true. So I don't know, being an atheist, man, I could do that, because being an atheist was a lot of I don't knows, and it's fine, that's good. It's better to just admit you don't know than to just go out of your way to try to prove yourself right, which was what creation science looks like to me. It's just going too far, and it's not, these creation science organizations. Is there some money thing? I mean, it's got to be. Everyone's got to make money, but it's a hustle. It's just, and it's an ugly thing, and it's just, it hurts to see people on both sides, though. It's not all poor creationists. Atheists have fallen into the trap too. Like, atheists care more about beliefs than they do human. They're enjoying, humans enjoying their lives. Like, that's what, like, a little bit of light religious belief and spirituality can bring. Hope, joy, happiness, and if people are good people, they're going to be good people with the religion or without it. But the religion is just, it can be a beautiful thing if the people that yeah, it's like religion isn't necessarily making good people into bad people. They would be bad people with or without the religion, quote unquote bad. I don't like to use those terms, but it's the atheists. They value the belief more than the acts, more than the end results of our actions. They put more time into arguing about what to believe than they are into figuring out ways to learn from this person they're trying to convince is wrong, and to find ways for both people to learn from each other, to borrow wisdom from each other and share wisdom and knowledge, understanding and enlightenment. And instead, and I would rather that be the goal for everybody, involved. Theists, atheists, I don't know what I am anymore, because I believe I had a supernatural experience, but I believe it must have a natural origin, and there might not be a life after death. I mean, you might just die, and that's okay. I don't know. I've tripped up on the possibility that, like, say you die, right? Bam, you die, your brain dies. People looking at you watch you die, and the seconds for those people watching just tick as normal seconds do. But from your point of view, that one last second before you die, that moment, that period of consciousness could be stretched out for what seems like an eon. And at that moment, if your effect from all your accumulative causes in your life is something, be careful what you wish for, I'm guessing, is like, if you want eternal life, and that's what you want, and that's what's motivating you, you might get it. But yeah, if your actions were such that you'll get the eternal life part, but you'll also get the effect of your causes. And I can see like a higher intelligence that really like looks down on like unlikable people or stuff, like being like, that's their moment because they had to suffer through your whole life watching you as they tried, like say they were your conscience at one point that you listened to when you were displaying impeccable morals, and little other voices like were able to come in to play. Now they weren't your conscience, but they mimicked your conscience, and then they talked you out of listening to your conscience, and then you gratified yourself some other way rather than listening to your conscience. So you went with the voices, and eventually your conscience couldn't you just went past your conscience to the voices. Your conscience would be like, well, how about this? And then you use poor logic to justify doing something to gratify yourself a certain way. And then possibly your conscience said, I'm not needed here anymore. And then they hand you over to a reprobate mind. But they're stuck there watching you. And that's their hell. And then that one last second of your life, that's their revenge. Or it could be hey, I don't know, maybe their hands are tied. Maybe they might not like you, but hey, you were a good person. So they're like, well, here you go. You deserve this. Be happy for this last second of your life that's stretched out to what seems like eon upon eon from your point of view. where you observe things in your conscience, and people watching you just watch you die. What if that was the case? I mean, now what are we in, Pascal's wager? How about, why don't we just, instead of taking Pascal's wager and making it about beliefs, which is what Pascal's wager is about. And I never would recommend believing in something because you're scared if you're wrong. That's not how you base a belief. You just believe. You just believe something on its merit or not. I never tried to make myself believe anything about science and religion and stuff. I tried to make myself believe other things in other areas of my life. But I, for some reason, could be reasonable until I thought I was reasonable, at least, about logic and science. I mean, I wasn't using logic in areas where I could justify doing dumb shit. I knew it was wrong because I wasn't connected to this other frequency before. And now, whatever, even if it's nothing, if it's all in my head, which I'm probably is, it's all in my head. I mean, no, it's natural. It's not supernatural. If it's behaving with impeccable morals now, then it's not a bad thing. So it'd be weird for an atheist to tell me, you know what, just keep thinking about that one thing and proving yourself wrong about that one thing that's causing you to display exemplary logic and decision making based on using good morals as your guide. Like, yeah, you're wrong, man. For, you know what I mean? Like, come on, atheists, just let me have this. But but I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole point of the show is for me to have someone help me find a natural explanation for my supernatural experience. Thank you very much.